And good evening. We're back with you once again, and my wife is already giggling. Now she's trying not to. uh, we're coming back with, I think this is video number 5. First of all, first and foremost, this video is for educational and informative purposes only, and it is intended for anyone that has an interest in this content. We are coming to you talking about an organization that we're a part of, the United House of Prayer for All People. If you've been following the channel, then you know that we are talking about, touching on subjects revolving around the corruption at the top of our organization. We have covered quite a bit, and tonight we want to conclude the Maria files with the aftermath of the 2023 General Assembly, where all of our members come together with representation from each congregation in a meeting that is to be held once a year, that we might discuss our Constitution and any changes that might be made to it. It's been stated, our law says that only the General Assembly has the authority and the powers to change, amend, revise, or modify the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. We've been touching on not only other violations, but specifically the Constitution in and of itself, how it has been changed on several occasions. We had brought in the last couple of videos information to you all pertaining to the events that transpired in 23's General Assembly. So at this point in time, we're going to listen in while my wife touches on her experiences after leaving the 2023 General Assembly, and then from there leading up to the 2024 General Assembly. So at this time, good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
I do well. How are you?
I am golden.
Awesome.
So we left off in the last video with my being sent downstairs, right?
Yes.
And talking to the members of the council, where Apostle Barksdale was judge, along with Apostle Commodore, and Pastor Gibbs took a seat to the side. The governing attorney was Apostle Perry, and Apostle Ladislaw stepped up, and he had some words. In fact, he had some words. And we went on and we closed out with the judges, Apostle Commodore, Apostle Barksdale, not really doing anything, not getting anything done, playing their role and acting as if they were getting something done. The instructions were simple, to hear me share with you what it was that I had just shared upstairs in the sanctuary during the 23 General Assembly. What I had shared with Apostle Cunningham at the time, who happened to have been the General Assembly Secretary, slash head judge on the council, slash also the senior minister. So he wanted me to share with you all because, as I shared with everyone, while he was asking Apostle Cunningham questions on the floor, Apostle Cunningham was
Not being forthcoming.
not being forthcoming. And then he whispered in the ear of Apostle Perry to ensure that he would
Also not be forthcoming.
also not be forthcoming. And by that we mean blatantly tell lies.
Mm-hmm.
in front of everyone.
Yep. And directly to the bishop.
Directly to the bishop, which is interesting because if they believe what it is that they tell everybody else, then they wouldn't be lying to the bishop.
Because they might think that he would know.
Exactly. See, they be teaching and talking about all the time, God's holy anointed man serving in the land today. He is his voice on earth. He carries the Spirit of Christ. And look on him. You can be healed tonight. Just wave. He's waving out blessings. All kinds of bless him, money. And when you bless him, then he is going to see to it that you are blessed. But if they really believed those things, if they believed all the things that they tell everybody else, if they believe the things that they teach and they preach and they preach and they teach to you all of us, as the members, even outside, during baptisms and street dedications, street sign dedication services, and so on and so forth, if they really believed all that, then riddle me this. Would they be lying to the face of the bishop consistently over and over and over? Many, many lies. Many lies. And the members saw him lie how many times?
You can count higher than me. I'm sorry.
It was more than, I'm sitting back like I said in the last video. While he's saying no, I'm doing this. While he's saying yes, I'm doing this. And again, Bishop Bailey a few times acted like he was trying to hold in his laughter, because Apostle Cunningham nor Apostle Perry could see that I'm behind him during the whole time. It must have been at least 7, 8, 9, 10, and counting lies. That was just there on the floor. And if you can lie so easily, just like this, on the floor to the bishop,
In the house of God.
right? And what you have called and said over and over and over and over again in his house, right? How is it so easy for you to do that and then tell everybody else the things that you say? So it's either that you don't believe it because you know for a fact it's not true, or that would make you worse if you believe the things that you're telling these individuals, but then you lie so easily. Anyway, but they did that, and then Bishop Bailey, instead of bringing me up, because he knew that, no, this isn't over, I still want to be heard, because he had told them to step to the side so that I can tell them what I had to say so that they can determine whether or not it's pertinent to the Constitution. So me disagreeing, Bishop Bailey absolutely knew, no, this isn't over yet, because I'm disagreeing with them. And I'm making a public spectacle of myself in doing the things that I did. So since I'm disagreeing with him and we're still in the General Assembly, it's not so easy for him to just close the meeting. He knew he had to do something. So then he directed my attention to the General Council. Once again, all of that is out of order.
Mm-hmm.
That is not supposed to be. You don't direct anyone to do anything other than follow the protocols of the General Assembly. You certainly don't withhold anyone from speaking, and you certainly don't send someone to talk to anybody after the meeting is over with, because that person has a voice that represents an entire congregation that gave them money to come there to do what they're supposed to do. Anyway, we went downstairs, talked to council. After that was over, we won't talk about after the meeting.
I was wondering if you would bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a little conversation with Apostle Ladishaw after the meeting.
A little.
Yeah, a little conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. He said some things that had upset me inside the meeting. And so, did he invite me outside, or did
No, you.
whatever it was, because he said I rubbed him the wrong way, and he said some other things. So they wanted to close the meeting, the council. And so I said to the judge that I would like to address the statements made by Apostle Ladisol. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I think that I even apologized if I was being out of order.
You did.
I just want to say one more thing. In the event that I offended anybody, I'm out of order, blah, blah, blah. I just want to say I'm sorry, I apologize. And they said that's very mature of you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And said that should conclude this situation. I said, but before I go, Pastor Ladisol owes me an apology too. And they went left. Anyway, I went on to ask, well, instead of addressing that here, because I see that y'all trying to close out, should I just address him outside? And I put it on the judge to say, yes, you can address him outside. So now I'm following the judge's orders. So I made sure that I asked, yeah, you can see me outside. Anyway.
But then he didn't want to get up and leave.
No, he didn't want to leave. It took about, what, 15 minutes?
Probably something like that.
I even went to him a couple of times. I'm coming, man. I'm coming, man. He just kept lingering.
He was hoping you would just leave.
Anyway, he came out. And as he was coming out, he kept walking up the hall. I simply wanted to get across to him that there was no need for him to share and say the things he said about me, and to try to get him to consider some of the things that he's been saying, as well as the way they've been acting. Long story short, we concluded out on the sidewalk in front of the house of prayer. And I kept asking for his phone number. He kept denying me his phone number. Anyway, that whole thing came to an end. And we then headed back to home. But then about 3 weeks later, it was time for us to read our minutes. When a delegate attends the General Assembly, they are to go back to their congregations, their prospective congregations, and read the minutes that they took during the General Assembly, so that the members back home will understand what happened, what unfolded, what was said, what was done. So the Sunday we were there,
June the 11th.
I was prepping some things for the cafeteria, and I had gotten there a little bit late because I'm actually going to be in the kitchen. And right around noon-ish, I had arrived, but my wife had texted me that we actually had a guest at the House of Prayer that day. Yeah. And that happened to be our
district chairman.
District chairman was there that Sunday. And I wondered, why would he be there that Sunday? Of course, we were scheduled to read our minutes on that Sunday. And of course, the pastor knew that we were scheduled to read the minutes on that Sunday. So of course we understood that the pastor, Elder Forney, had called our district chairman, or vice versa. And the district chairman let him know, well, I'm coming over because I want to hear what they're going to say. And you all should know that it's things like this that they do all the time to try to instill fear in the people and intimidate the members.
It was very, very effective. Not to you, but for the people.
Yeah, for the members that are there. They're used to this type of thing, and they're afraid. They get terrified when chairman or district chairman, ooh, it's like that Mufasa moment in The Lion King. Say his name again, ooh, and this is just the chairman. And he comes over and, he sits there to intimidate. This is intentional. And none of this should be, because everyone in here is here by their own free will, is voluntary. Anyway, what took place while I was still on my way?
I don't remember who gave the message that day, but whoever it was, is it it's Elder Rodney, right?
Elder Rodney.
Yeah.
Yes.
He came up behind them to make some additions or corrections or whatever to what they said. And that was about it before you got there. Thankfully,
He got up behind the pastor.
I don't remember which of the elders from our house had spoke that day. I can't. If I had my notebook, I could tell you because I wrote down. Always write. Yeah, always write down my notes.
But he took over pretty much.
Yeah, he took over.
And this is why members get intimidated, because chairmans come, they need to show the members that I'm in charge by coming in and just literally doing whatever they want. They'll take over the service. They'll get up and talk whenever they feel like talking. They'll direct people from the front to do this, to do that. And it's done intentionally to make sure that the members understand that I'm in charge. I'm the boss. Even though your pastor's here, when I walk through that door, the pastor is expected to give me the wheel. Again, none of that should be the case. It's all out of order. The purpose and intent design behind this for the leadership of the House of Prayer is quite simply to flex muscle. That's all it is. That's the only purpose that it serves. And it's literally disgusting because we're supposed to be there to give our services, praises, honor, excuse me, according to the things that we've been taught to the Most High. The problem there is they come in and they simply take over everything without regard even to the Most High. So when I got there, I went on to the kitchen, put my things up, came on back out to the front, went on and got on the drum. And I know, of course, what he's there for. He doesn't get up to speak. After I arrive, he's not the speaker. He's just sitting there observing the service, watching the service. Then, towards the end of the service, it's time for us to read our minutes. And you want to take this from here?
Yes. So I read mine first. And when I finished reading mine, there was a sister who had asked me for a copy of my notes that I wrote and printed, but I was told I couldn't give those to her. So I sat down.
Who told you that you couldn't give them to her?
Rodney. Elder Rodney.
Elder Rodney told the delegate that she could not give a copy of her minutes to a member. And that is absolutely not true.
If they can get an epistle, why can't they get my little measly notes? They're just my little notes.
What she just said is another point. The epistles, the members used to get copies of the epistles. An epistle is the name that they give to the letters that the bishops write. And it's simply because they want the people to think, again, this is a part of the whole idea that this is the one voice on earth speaking on behalf of the Most High. Therefore, they don't call his letter a letter. They call it an epistle because they're duplicating the fact that Paul, Peter, they wrote epistles, right? So, again, all of this is a job designed to make the people feel like everything in here is exactly as it was in the scripture, which, quite frankly, is all fraudulent. It's false. It's not true at all. It's a farce. And so for the district chairman, Elder Rodney, to tell her that she could not give her a copy of the minutes to anyone is way out of line. Is way out of order. Did I know that at the time?
You were sitting there, but you might have been engaged in another way at that time.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I would have said something.
Yeah, he definitely said it.
Nobody told me that I couldn't give my minutes to anybody. But the pastor did ask me for a copy. He asked me for the minutes that I had.
Yeah,
said,
he asked me for mine as well.
I said, I'll make you a copy, and I'll see to it that you get it. But nobody was going to get the minutes that I'd written up. And it was all, quite frankly, disturbing because that had never been done before. And of course, I knew the reason why. He wanted to be there to hear what we had to say because I was the only one that gave a problem to the bishop, or what he calls his, he's like a father to me, Elder Rodney. And Bishop Cunningham has done things, like I said before, to push certain people forward in the organization. We're not going to go there tonight, but the point of the matter is he's there simply to look after Apostle Cunningham at the time, the senior minister, and Bishop Bailey. But these are all bullying tactics. And this is something that is used quite often in the House of Prayer. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your title or position is. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I need to say, and exactly what it is that you need to hear, which is what Elder Rodney found out after that meeting, even during the meeting. But the point is to tell her that she could not, and this is any delegate. Those are your minutes. And you can make copies of the minutes if anybody would like copies of the minutes. Yeah, there's official minutes, but if
They're here.
right,
I'm not. It's like 2023. To think that you're going to take a piece of paper from me and I'm not going to have a backup of it. I mean, but I understand the thinking because they do everything on paper.
but there's no reason for the pastor or anybody else to have a copy of anybody's minutes.
Yeah,
They don't keep the minutes. No one keeps the minutes.
they said they did.
I have not ever heard in over 40 years anybody ever keeping the minutes from someone who attended the General Assembly. Period. They are not official minutes of the congregation. It's someone's account of the events that took place at the General Assembly that they attended. That's all. So now I say that to say this. If it's official that they should have been turned in, then there should be something as a part of the procedures and the protocols to allow the delegates everywhere to understand that when you bring your minutes back, the protocol is that you submit them so that they can be kept as a part of an official record. But that's not the case. So just like much of everything else in the House of Prayer, people make things up on the spot and tell you, well, this is what we do. Well, you all as members should learn to ask, well, show me that in black and white. Where's that in writing so I can see it? And you'd be surprised to learn that it's not there. And we're going to come back to that in just a moment. Go ahead.
So, our pastor, when I read 2022's, he did not take a copy.
Right.
Okay, so in 2023, he was like, I need to get I need to get your minutes. I was like, okay, sure. I gave it to you. And I had 2022's with me because a sister in the congregation had asked for it and I made an extra copy for her. But I realized that I had a typo in it. Just one letter. And I told the pastor, there's a typo in this and I want to correct it. Then I'll bring it to you. And he said, okay.
Right.
And so I went and took it home and made the correction, and then I gave him a copy. But he told me at that time, he said, we keep all of these.
Yeah. Knowing that he was lying.
I felt like he was not telling the truth.
Yeah.
Obviously, because he never asked me in a whole year. In a whole year, he never asked me for the 2022s. Did he ask you for yours when you were a delegate before? Okay, that's what I figured. So here we are, third year. Now we're just now asked to get our notes.
And mind you, I look at, I would look at the pastor or anybody else, and I'm going to look at them and smile. And I'm going to laugh at them in their face to let them know that I know that you're lying or you're making this up on the spot. I'm going to do what you ask because of the position at the time. I'm supposed to take your lead and do what it is that you request, as long as it's not unlawful. It's not unlawful to ask me to make you copies of minutes, but if you demand that I make you copies of minutes, then now we have a problem. And then the person who went to the General Assembly, they're an eyewitness. They have everything up here anyway. So again, none of it makes sense. The only thing that I can make of it is that they wanted what we had written and what we read so that they can take it back to the chairman to the General Assembly Secretary / judge, head judge / senior minister, or take it to the bishop. But I could care less what any of them thought or any of them read, because the fact of the matter is, it's true. And one of the biggest problems in the house of prayer is, if you all are doing everything the right way and according to what the Spirit of Christ is leading you to do, then why is there's this huge undertaking to control everything?
Mm-hmm.
You need to see everything. You need people to report to you everything. You need to be observing everything. You have to have your hands on everything. It's simply because much of what's going on is simply not true. It's a lie. And in order to control the narrative, you need to make sure that certain things are not getting out to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. And the people keep falling for this stuff. And the only reason why they keep doing it is because the people keep falling for it. And the members know that there's all kinds of wrong going on, lying going on, anything almost imaginable going on amongst the leaders at the top. And for us or anybody else around the world in any other institution to look at people above you who's living in sin, walking in filth, not hiding none of it,
Nope.
then how dare you suggest to me or anybody else that these are men of the Most High who represent holiness, sanctification, edification? These men are supposed to be consecrated.
Mm-hmm.
So during the meeting, he began to say things.
After you read yours. Or while you were reading yours.
While I was reading mine, I paused for a moment, and I get ready to say something. And I was at the point where I was reading, I was about to correct the bishop, because the bishop had made a statement about me during the General Assembly. Oh yeah, that house I had to close. And that was personal. It wasn't personal for me, it was personal for him. Because at that time, he took the opportunity to try to throw an insult my direction in front of the entire organization. But he lied. That was an all-out lie. Now, my problem before was I believed that the bishop was being lied to. I thought that councilmen and chairmen and the General Assembly Secretary / senior minister had all been lying to him, and he's repeating things that they say. But when he said that at that time in the General Assembly, nobody told you that. The council never would lie to you and say that you had to close that house, because he would know. And he said that house that he had to close, I know that was a lie. Either that or you forgot. And anyone who knows anything about Bishop Bailey,
he didn't forget
you know
nothing.
that he has a memory right. He did not forget. That was an all-out lie. And when I saw the conduct in the General Assembly from the beginning pertaining to the minutes, and how he had a problem with the minutes being read at my request, whenever I let it be known that I want to hear the portion of the minutes pertaining to the proposals from last year. Pastor Cunningham actually said there were no proposals last year.
He said it. He said it. Whenever you were speaking, that's when he said it.
Now, that's a problem, because the year prior, we all talked about proposals. But they were disguised as proposals. So in 2023, Pastor Cunningham actually told the truth when he said it at that time. There were no proposals because nothing went through the proposal process. They were not approved by the congregations throughout the organization and then sent up to the General Assembly. But he knows that there were no proposals, and that's why he said it. But during 22, he had to make it look like proposals as the General Assembly Secretary. He had to act out his part in order to assist the bishop in underhandedly, behind the backs of the entire organization, amend the Constitution.
Even even Bishop Bailey in 2022 called them proposals, because I wrote it down as he spoke about those things. But then he turned around and said that in 23 that there were none.
Now, the problem with that is in 22, even though they call them proposals, and I showed you this the first time, you can see right here the word amendments. And that's why he said there were no proposals. Because he knew there were no proposals. The bishop knew that there were no proposals. Mickey Bailey knew that there were no proposals. Jimmy Jones knew that there were no proposals because they were on the Constitution Revision Committee. So with that in mind, here's our problem. Because Sister Lewis had read all these minutes from the year prior, and this is what she read. And I'm going to look at this. I'm going to hold this here. Look at the orange lines. You see one here. Okay? This is the copy of the Constitution, every single page, and we went through it meticulously. Okay? Wherever you see orange, those were the changes in the Constitution. Look at all of that. Okay? That's your first page. Actually, your second page.
There were whole
More
sections changed. Entire sections were changed.
Okay? Now, when the organization has no problem with this, I have a huge problem with the organization. Because I'm saying to myself, I know for a fact that I can't be the only one that realize that the bishop and company just hacked up the entire Constitution and did with it whatever they wanted. Page after page after page. All of these things are changes where you see highlights. Sometimes an entire paragraph was removed. And for our members to not have a problem with any of this, that's a huge problem for me. It should be a huge problem for every single member of the organization. Because they're sitting here changing the most important document of the entire organization right in front of you. And treating us, every single one of us, as if we're ignorant, stupid fools. This is a slap in every single member's face of the organization. And they're doing it in front of you, right in front of your faces, which is why they do everything they can to keep us ignorant. I say us because I was ignorant of their practices behind closed doors while trusting the bishop. And that's how this whole thing works. As long as you trust who's sitting in that chair and thinking that they're doing the will of our Father in heaven, then you won't suspect a thing. But these are liars. And they're the worst liars. Because they have people believing that they're representing him while stabbing every single member down here behind the back, deceiving everyone throughout the organization, as well as those who are not a part of the organization, all for the purposes of putting their hands on money that does not belong to them. There was one member who wrote in the comments, I'm sitting back observing what's going on and listening to what Brother Lewis is saying. And I'm a part of the organization, have been for years. And they said that they watched. And when they went, they noticed that the bishop, when he took the seat, we have all these people and we have all this money. But you don't see money being used to buy one single piece of equipment to repair anything in any of the houses of prayers. They tell the congregations and the pastors to raise money to repair things in the houses of prayer.
Or people just voluntarily do it because they love the house of prayer and they want to do right.
And
like we
because
used
they
to do.
believe, right. and because they believe all of these lies. I have no idea how much money was put between us to fix things, clean things, repair things. My mother, working in Paradise, the senior living arrangement, took money out of her pocket to purchase chairs, to buy equipment, because the organization failed to do so when they were neglecting our senior citizens. People who needed. She's looking at stained, dirty, nasty, filthy things that's left for them to utilize.
And even the things that we heard from some people.
Yes.
It was really despicable.
We went to another one, I won't say which one, but the infestation was so bad.
Oh,
I was embarrassed to be there. While in conversation, I'm looking and I'm acting like I don't see what it is that I see. I'm getting food out of the kitchen and I see roaches crawling on the wall. But we believe the lies. You can see chewed up marks in the walls eating grease from mice. Rats around the building. But this is the respect that we give to the people who's been here for the longest, who's given everything, and who's still here, still giving everything. In their 70s, and their 80s, and their 90s. We have emails and text messages, comments from family members of people who gave their everything, their lives in here.
do you remember what one elderly lady told us that her pastor
Yes.
said to her?
And she's now passed. She said the
And
pastor
her
told
husband
them,
has too.
Yes.
Hmm.
And these are two of the most dedicated members of the entire organization. She said the pastor told them, as long as you got breath, you can work.
Yep.
And by work, he meant doing something to bring revenue into the house of prayer.
For G class.
Right. And she's sitting out in the hall selling candy and sodas and chips
It's just too much.
when she should be relaxing, enjoying the last of her years. She's worrying about getting another floor. It's despicable. And then members will go to them after their family members are laid up dying, will go to the bishops for help, only to be just like Brother Belton, that you saw on the news, turned away. It is despicable. Today, I just got news that he was in Greenville, South Carolina, last night. And the members presented love gift like they normally do. All of these people are still indoctrinated. It's not their fault. They've been lied to. And many of them don't realize they're under a spell. But they gave love gift. He said, put it in your house offering. That looks good. It sounds good. But it's nothing but a trick. If you really cared, you'd be doing something for the people. But you're doing nothing for the people. And many people have gotten sick. We have evidence of people dying from mildew and mold inhalation from the apartment buildings that they've lived in all these years that have not been upkept nor maintained. Family members of individuals. You've had individuals for years coming to try to tell you about this. We sitting in the house of prayer that we are at, cracks running up and down the seams of the walls.
And no one would hear you.
Not one person. Sisters sitting in the restroom,
Locked in.
screaming, yelling for somebody to come into the bathroom to help them open the door
She was trapped in the stall.
inside the stall.
The elderly lady.
And we raising tens of thousands of dollars in G class and love gift. It's pathetic. And the bishops riding around in $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 cars while everybody getting broke. And women sitting up there around him getting rich. These are multimillionaires holding their hand out for people living in poverty. And I've talked about these buses that people don't understand why they're rallying the troops together to go to Miami. Now they're talking about tents where you can rent a tent outside. where people can get together and sit and eat and change their clothes in a tent. And I talked about parents sending their children all over the place in the house of prayer unsupervised, not knowing what's going on with these children. And there's been all kinds of allegations from children after they grew up, from people putting their hands on them and doing things with them. But they're afraid to speak out because they know that they will be targeted. What is the deal and the issue with trying to bring up recreational activity for the youth? Why is there this huge push by the bishop to get the young people to Miami? The young people, get them to Miami. Having every congregation to pay money to make sure that they get a seat on the bus, to pay for their hotel rooms, to pay for the food. This was given as an impression that the bishop was going to pay for the finances for all this. My mind immediately went to red flags. Why would the bishop pay money to get the young people to Miami? What is the purpose of getting all these young people to Miami? This place is going to be hot. Temperatures here. They're not going to be fully clothed to play sports. Even the uniforms of athletic teams are not loose. They're not long in covering up the body the way that we're supposed to be teaching when it comes to holiness. And these are bishops. Even the parade, girls' skirts way up halfway to the thigh. And not one word from bishops about the uniforms being unpresentable while you're marching through the street. All of this is absolutely disgusting. And we, the members of the House of Prayer, have sat back and just watched, knowing that there's problems. But the bigger problem is, you know that nothing will be done about it. You got pastors with no backbone, like Elder Forney and so many others, scared to death, shivering and shaking in their boots. Because men like Elder Rodney coming around to intimidate and antagonize people. While he was standing there talking, one of the sisters wanted to say something, and she didn't stand up. Stand up when you speak. Show some respect.
An elderly lady.
I got upset. And I waited. Because I got upset, I controlled myself. Because had I spoke at that moment, I knew for a fact everything else I had to say, I would not have been heard.
And while all that was going on, our youngest daughter had her face down in her lap crying.
Because of what she saw, what she was looking at. This is a senior citizen that he talked about, stand up and show some respect. A young man. The disrespect that these men have toward the members of the House of Prayer, it is off the charts. It is so disgusting. Including bishops. And she apologized. And she then stood up. But that's common throughout the organization because they're used to the intimidation. They're used to the fear tactics. And so when I raised my hand to speak, he didn't want me to speak because he started talking about how what I read was I was going to correct the bishop because of what he said, not being true. And instead of correcting him, at the last moment, I thought this is not the time or the place, and it's going to look like something that it's not. So I simply said, San Antonio, sir. But every time that a lie was told on me, I sat back, and I can almost repeat verbatim every single lie from these bishops, from these apostles, fake, phony apostles, and these men sitting in positions of authority above people just to get their money. What are you getting in exchange for all this money? So I talked about earlier today, learning about Greenville, South Carolina. I thought that he's about to do his tour down south. But instead I learned that there was a town hall meeting and he had to be there because the community where he's building expensive luxury apartments in the wrong neighborhood, beside the house of prayer, the community don't want those apartments there because the going rate is $1,700 a month. They said, we not affording those $1,700 a month apartment buildings, no condominiums. So they're fighting against it so that the city will not allow the house of prayer to build those apartments there. That's his purpose for being there. Those apartments are not going to be for the members of the house of prayer in Greensville because they're not paying those $1,700 a month. And yet, all these millions of dollars going into that building project, like the one that just went into Greensboro, North Carolina, but not a dime is going to fix a toilet bowl at 601 M Street, where the current bishop used to be the pastor for year after year after year after year. Every single time I went there, there's a sign on the stall saying broken. And all this money being raised out of 601 M Street in the millions of dollars. Yet you have a broken bathroom. I have text messages that was sent out from the pastor to the members for even children to commit to $10 a week house offering. Youth department, $25 a week house offering. And for members, $50 a week house offering, because several times they were almost about to have their lights cut off for not paying their bill. Same thing with other mother houses. Charlotte Mission, New York Mother House, other houses where they're on top, giving millions of dollars in G-Class and sometimes hundreds of thousands in love gift, but not paying their utility bill. There's a serious problem with our priorities amongst the men who call themselves men of the Most High. So we're sitting here reading minutes while one more man comes in to intimidate the members. Mm-hmm. And while he's standing there, readings, almost corrected the bishop, and I told him. And so then I stopped to let him know what had happened in San Antonio. I have the floor. I'm reading the minutes. I need to explain why I said what I was about to say. The Rodney behind me, no, don't go there. You only just read the minutes.
Yeah, just read what you wrote.
Now, at that moment, the members saw me smiling. And I was about to turn around and address you on the spot. But once again, I knew I'm not going to be able to say what I need to say if I get upset. So then I let it fly, and I went on and finished the minutes. And when I sat down, then you got up, Elder Rodney got up to start saying, now we know we don't correct our bishop. We know nobody corrects our bishop. He is God's voice on earth, and don't nobody correct him. Hand goes up. He started to do what?
Keep talking.
Keep talking. Did he respect ignore. So now, okay, I have a choice. I need to speak or just let this fly. So he went on, kept talking. I said, excuse me. Once. I'm going to get to you, Brother Lewis. Kept talking. Excuse me. I'm going to get to you, Brother Lewis. 2 times. I went on, sat down. And he kept on. And by the time he said what he said to her, the senior citizen, hand goes up again. Stood up. Excuse me. I'm going to let you talk. You've been saying that, but you're not letting me talk. And y'all come in here and you do this quite often because y'all got the mic. Mm-hmm. And the people out there don't have a mic. Mm-hmm. They don't get to say anything they want, however they want, whenever they feel like it. But you stand up here and y'all do all this all the time. Wait, we're not going to do this. We're not going to argue in here. No, we're not arguing. But it's a problem with you standing here talking the way that you're talking, any type of way to these members. You need to respect these members. These members don't need to sit here and listen to what it is that you're saying like this. No, there's issues that I need to address. Address your issue. But you need to show respect in order to get respect. He went on saying a few more things. Cut me off again. We can talk about this after. I said, okay, we'll talk about it after. But one thing's for sure, you're not going to come in here and say whatever you feel like saying and think that nobody's going to say nothing about it. He went on to end the meeting about what, 5 or 10 minutes after that?
One thing he did do is try to put the congregation on the spot and make them uncomfortable and scared,
That's right.
and to intimidate them by saying, did any of y'all tell him that you wanted him to say such and such or whatever?
But he asked it this way. How many of you in here
Yeah.
took up a vote to send your delegates to Washington to talk about last year? Immediately when he asked that, my hand goes back up again. What are you doing?
Trying to scare the people.
No. Wait, Brother Lewis. No, there's no wait on this. What are you doing? I need to know who in here voted in favor of the delegates. I said, no. Y'all don't need to do that. Y'all don't need to answer that question. That's an invalid question. There is no vote on a delegate going to Washington to say or share what it is that that delegate wants to say or share. You vote on proposals. That's what you vote on. You don't vote to tell the delegate what it is that they need to say on behalf of the congregation.
And they don't need permission to ask for the minutes to be read.
Not at all. And he said, well, the rules say this. Excuse me? The rules say this. I'll say, okay, what rule says that? And this is what I keep telling the members.
He should have known
Put
better.
people on the spot. Put them on the spot. Challenge every single thing they say. What rule says that the House takes up a vote on what the delegate is going to go to Washington to speak on? Where's that in the rule? Oh, it's in the, I don't have my rule book on me. Okay. And he turns around, Secretary, you got your rule book? And she said, no, I'm sorry, I don't have my rule book. And he goes on, well, I know it's in no, that's not in the Constitution. Well, it's in one of the books. It's not even in one of the books. It's not in the Are You Aware? It's not in the Supreme Law. It's not in the Auxiliary Law. And the problem is, at that moment, he realized he ran into the right one. You didn't know the law. Which is why I keep telling everybody, learn your laws. There's no rule, and they will make it up. If they lie in front of the bishop to his face, what do you think they're going to do to you? They will lie to you too. These men are practiced liars, expert liars, habitual liars. You don't need to fear them. This is why we read in Deuteronomy, 18th chapter, the test of a prophet. If a prophet prophesies something and it doesn't come to pass, you don't need to fear him. In fact, the command was to kill him. And we call them men prophets that have never prophesied about anything. They'll tell you the news after the news, but that's not a prophecy. We get done, and he hurries up to end the meeting, and it was proven on the spot that there is no such law. Well, I have to come back. I don't have my notes. Well, you can come back all you want, but there's no law that says that. And he hurried up and ended that. Shut that down. And we did not take up a vote where nobody had to say, I voted on that. And if you start speaking up for yourselves, members, then they will not treat you that way any longer, or at least for the little bit of time they had left. After that, I told them that we can talk about this afterwards. We ended the meeting. People had praying now, so they get ready to leave. I asked everyone to stand for a moment. Hold on 1 second while I waited for everyone to finish. And then I said, I just want everybody to hear me say this. You, sir, were out of line. You were way out of line to come in here. And when the members saw that I was coming at them that way, they started tiptoeing out.
Yep.
And I did it to show the people, you don't have to take that nonsense. You were way out of line. We don't need to do this, Brother Lewis. Yes, we do. You came in here and you acted like that in front of everybody. In front of everybody, you need to be corrected. The pastor gets up. Brother Lewis, brother. No, ain't no Brother Lewis. You need to be corrected. And you don't need to, no, we can take this outside. Yes, come on, we can take this outside. In fact, we can use the pastor's office. So we went into the pastor's office.
Can I just interject to one thing?
Uh-huh.
While you were face to face talking to him, our pastor was behind your back mouthing something to him.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. But Elder Forney knew I would have dealt with that, which is why he did it behind my back. We dealing with a lot of people who do slide, sneaky, distasteful things behind anybody's backs. This is not what any of this is supposed to be about. It's upsetting that we are even having to have this discussion to share with you all on video the things that they've done all the time. People didn't just get into a situation to where they're so scared and so terrified. After that meeting, that was early. I started writing letters. A little later on in the year, I started writing letters.
Like 6 months later.
In the meeting in the pastor's office, I shared in front of Elder Forney, point by point by point by point. Even let Elder Rodney know when I got in there, Brother Lewis, no, ain't no Brother Lewis nothing. You're going to listen to me. I heard you out there. I respected you out there. I asked you to come in here, and I asked to see you. You're going to hear me. Okay, go ahead and talk. I told him point by point by point, every single point, how I went to Washington to help the bishop, because I felt that people were setting the bishop up. And by the time I got done showing him all these problems with the law and the rule and the contradictions and the conflict of interest, and how Pastor Cunningham is sitting on seats that he ain't supposed to be sitting in, how there's contradictions all around the staff, on the council, including in the bishop's office, he was overwhelmed. Asked me to forgive him. I didn't know none of this stuff. I know you don't know it. Even Apostle White, the state chairman, don't know it. When I called him a judge, he didn't even know that he's a judge. When we're in the state elders council, I said, excuse me, judge. I'm not a judge, I'm a chairman. I smiled. I said, excuse me, chairman. My reputation is that I've been subject to anyone in positions of authority. And Apostle Tanner, when he was there in Charlotte, was there that day beside Apostle White when this took place. Every state chairman is also a judge. Every pastor is also a judge. Guess what? Every president of a club is also a judge. And whenever you're sitting in front of that club in a meeting and someone has a concern that you need to make a decision on, at that time, you take off that hat, whatever it is you have, and you put on your judge's hat. Because you're about to make a decision using your authority, and that decision is supposed to stand. So in a state elders council meeting, you are a judge. If we have something called a general council, the highest ecclesiastical body of the organization, and the general council certainly has judges, then what about a state council? If you check your law in the Constitution, it'll even tell you if there's a problem with the minister, he's supposed to be brought before his state council, the board of ministers. Point is that we have all these individuals in these positions who have no clue what they're doing or what they're supposed to do. And this is why the House of Prayer is completely upside down. What I was talking about in Greenville, South Carolina, the community raising concerns because they don't want the apartments built there. This has nothing to do with helping the community, has nothing to do with helping the members. Furthermore, the bishop has asked the people to attend the meeting. Why should the people attend the meeting on your behalf when the people are not going to be the ones to benefit by this property? My question is, who's going to benefit from it? And if it's the House of Prayer that's going to benefit from it, why isn't some of this money being made for the organization going back into the houses of prayers. Because according to the purpose doesn't say that the House of Prayer as an organization is going to raise money in order to erect, establish, and maintain apartment buildings or condominiums. You're supposed to be maintaining the properties that are used for the purpose of worshiping and giving praises. But once they're built, they're put back into the hands of the people to kill them financially. So here we are after the meeting. We go forward, now livid, because we just witnessed the General Assembly where the bishop has pretty much exposed himself to allow us to absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that he is a part of the problem, that he's not standing up for what's right, that he's not walking the law. And all the many times I heard him say, hold the line.
Yeah. I wanted to bring that. I'm glad you said that, because in 2023, when we were there together, the bishop said in his spiel of talking at the beginning, he said that if a man has to stand by himself,
Yes.
you remember this, that he's to stand if he has to stand by himself.
Now,
And I thought, how there's no ironic. So,
right.
yeah.
Now, what she just said, I thought about, and I got angry because I've been putting forth my effort to come and protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been getting kicked in the stomach in front of the entire organization time and time again, while I'm pretty much being ostracized and everybody looking at me like I'm the devil himself.
And people don't even want to sit where you sit, or
I
where
could have
we sit.
I have a whole pew by myself. In the 2021 General Assembly, before 22, I was in 21, where the General Assembly was in Newport News, Virginia. And anybody that was in that General Assembly, they would have seen me sitting on an entire pew alone, for the exception of one person who was down on the other end. About six pews back from the front. And I sat almost in the same spot that I did in Washington, so I could see the bishop. Pastor Cunningham, Pastor Sutton, Pastor Barksdale, Pastor Lattisaw, Pastor Commodore kept staring. Pastor Perry kept on staring, just staring. And the same thing they did then, they did in other General Assembly sessions, where the General Assembly Secretary, it's time to vote, and the council get up. General Council only. Complete violation.
That doesn't even make sense. If the general council is supposed to be made up of the people, then why would the people
General
not?
Assembly.
Pardon?
The General Assembly is supposed to be made up of the
Yes,
people.
I'm sorry. If the General Assembly is supposed to be made up of the people, and this meeting is for the people to have their part, then what part of it are they not supposed to be included in?
And yet they're saying,
They're not included.
now what authority do they have? Absolutely none. But they're taking it. So here's another practice that we see consistently over and over and over again. And I sat back because once again, the bishop gave a few remarks about how pleased he's been with the General Assembly Secretary. And of course, now it all makes sense. He's pleased because the General Assembly Secretary is working for him,
Mm-hmm. Doing his bidding.
doing everything that he wants him to do. He's not working for the people. Year after year after year after year. And the council's sitting here getting up to work for them. When I read, I'm going to read, can you jot this down?
Sure.
Somebody who commented how they were in the General Assembly and they could tell that everything in it was orchestrated.
Yes,
Can
I
you
remember.
remind me? Okay. I want to read that.
I can probably look it up while you're
Okay.
talking.
We'll read it tonight. They could tell that everything in the General Assembly was orchestrated. And they said, when you said it, it made sense, Brother Lewis. It rung out just as crystal clear. And I'm telling you, these are all the things that they do right in front of the people's faces because they know that you don't know what they're supposed to and what they're not supposed to do. So, going forward, back to 23, I decided that something needs to be done. Because now we've seen that the bishop is a part of this whole thing. Okay? So now, which way do I go? So I sat back and waited. Spirit to lead me. As I wait, I make up my mind, okay, next year, wait a minute, that was 23.
Mm-hmm.
No, 24 coming up. And I saw that the bishop is part of this. So I made up my mind, okay, going forward, I can no longer be polite. Can't do things by the law when everybody else is breaking the law, including the bishop. So now I thought to myself, okay, me and you, Bishop Bailey. He sat there and watched me go head to head with councilman after councilman as judges, state chairmen. I had head to head meetings with them for the things they were doing wrong, behind closed doors, sometimes openly in front of the people, and the people didn't know that they were doing wrong. So I would go to them and I would talk to them face to face. Sometimes it spilled over into state elders meetings because they were embarrassed and their pride got next to them. So they would make a situation out of it in state elders councils to try to make it look like I'm a problem. Saying things like, I'm causing division in the state. But the whole time, they know that they're doing wrong, and I could easily prove it, which is why every time that my letter was on the line, or they tried to take my credential, I would tell them, take it. See what happens. Take it. And they wouldn't, because I held them to the letter of the law. Even times when I got fines, and over and over again, they would eliminate a fine. They would come up with reasons to justify their eliminating my fine because they knew that I was going to go to the top. But now I find out that the top, the bishop, is a part of this whole thing. So I sat back and I waited. And I determined to go back the next year. I didn't know how. I know I'm not going to go to the General Assembly now because the pastor and the district chairman ain't nowhere in the world not to be elected. But then it dawned on me, wait a minute, my case has not been concluded. I wanted to say something and they buried it. They pushed me to the side. That's my ticket. I now know old business has my name in it. And I have business that has not been concluded. Okay. So while I'm now making preparations in my mind, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, we get news about Philadelphia. Bishop Bailey has departed. That's when I said, we're about to have some problems. Mm-hmm. Did I say this?
Mm-hmm.
We're about to have some problems. The man who's a head judge, General Assembly Secretary, and the senior minister, I said, we're going to have some problems. This man is going to do everything he can to have himself put in that seat. He's going to place himself in the seat. I said those words. I told other people this. He's going to do everything he can to put himself there. And then when I noticed the councilman beginning to speak on his behalf, and we're going to pick this whole thing apart because it started on that Friday night when Apostle Commodore came to the mic and said the next voice you hear will be that of our very own senior minister, Apostle A.D. Cunningham. Now you all know for a fact that the only time we use those words in the house of prayer is when we're talking about the bishop. And that's what gave it away. This is planned. And every single thing after that took place by those councilmen traveling all over the organization, they kept cheering and cheering and cheerleading for the name of one person. And they kept putting it out there. But we're going to talk about this coming up. And I'm going to lay out for you and show you all kinds of evidence that that election was no election whatsoever. That was planned, it was staged, it was rigged. As we unfolded the events, and we watching, getting recordings, as we getting closer and closer. I went to the hospital in October.
October
Checkups,
12th
heart checkups.
and 13th.
October 12th and 13th.
That should ring a bell for some people. The 13th.
October 12th and 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I came out, was it the 14th that I came out? Yes.
You came out on the 13th.
Was it the 13th?
Mm-hmm. The day that Bishop
That's right.
Cunningham was elected.
The election was on October 13th. Now, I was preparing to be at the General Assembly because there's no need for the House to come together again to elect delegates for the General Assembly. I told my wife, I believe that the order went out for them to elect delegates for the next General Assembly just so that I won't be elected. Just to keep me from being elected. That's what I thought. Why? Because it's already out. Lewis is against. Lewis knows that law. And now Lewis knows that the man that they all rallied around, the man who lied all over the place, the council is getting ready to set him up. And Lewis knows that a liar is about to become the bishop of the organization. Now, I went to the hospital for checkups. And while I was there, Spirit started talking. Told me to pull out my Bible. Spirit told me, pull out your Bible and start walking me through the scripture and uncovering and unveiling all kinds of things in the house of prayer. And I would fall asleep. And I'd wake up and the Spirit would show me more, show me more, show me more. Fall asleep. Wake up, show me more. Deuteronomy, Daniel, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, 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 Isaiah, Jeremiah. Kept coming up. And if you find the messages throughout the book of Jeremiah, as well as Isaiah, you'll find that somebody was angry with the leaders because of a whole lot of lying going on and misleading the people. Okay. My wife, this is at her job, her hospital. I had a whole wing of the hospital, that whole hallway, empty. No, not one patient. Only nurse at the nurse's station is one nurse, and across from her is my room. 2 days. Sleep, wake up. Sleep, wake up. So every time she get ready to come up there, what would happen?
More work.
She'd get redirected. Couldn't come. More work. 2 days. Redirected. And the whole time, Spirit dealing with me. Sleep, wake up. Sleep, wake up. Sleep, wake up. When it was time for me to get discharged, I was a complete different man. I was a completely different man. I got angry, I got bothered, I got irritated. Spirit comforted me. Because just like the disciples, just like Paul was under a false impression because of people in leadership having their ear, not knowing the full truth of the matter, they too were being misled until something happened and someone with the truth spilled into their ear. And those men were never the same since. And Paul began to be the biggest problem for the men in the temple. after that election, when we heard that he had been elected, how did you feel?
Depleted.
Depleted.
I was not surprised though.
Mm-mm.
But
Neither was I.
I was depleted.
Because we already knew.
Yeah.
The councilmen had been setting him up. They've been going around giving speeches to rally behind him. We're not even going to go into. We're going to go into that later. Recording after recording after recording. I started writing letters.
Towards the end of the year.
Towards the end of the year. We're going to cover this too. And I started writing. The first one was this one.
And I think your first draft was like 30-some pages.
30-some pages. I put numbers at the top. The first draft was, I think it was 34 pages.
I think so.
I cut it down to 21 pages. And in this first draft, the title is The Necessity of a Trial. And I show all the problems, and then it says how to fix this. And then it says the proposal. And I wrote a proposal, and I began. My proposal is as follows. And in this proposal, I am proposing how to fix this problem that we ran into. Because the organization had been defrauded. It's a complete fraud. After that, I wrote number 2. Evidence. Facts. And I sent this out. And I had it going out all over the organization.
And you started hearing under, I don't want to use the word underhanded, but, or snide, these comments coming from the front in the sermons.
Oh yeah, people start preaching about me.
Yeah.
No big deal. I can be hated. Other men were hated, and they still stood up for what's right. In fact, we even had, for people who wanted to reach out, we even had the address to reach us at was I stand for right at hotmail.com, to make sure that people understood. I'm standing up for what's right. What are you going to do? You going to roll over? I'm standing up for what's right. And the biggest problem I had is because the bishop used to say quite often, again, he was all the time, hold the line,
Mm-hmm.
hold to the line. How many DVDs you hear him saying, hold to that line?
Mm-hmm.
And it really got under my skin because I'm being told that I'm being too hard on the members with rules. And every single member that you talk to would tell you that that was a complete lie. I've never been hard on people. I taught the rules so that they would make up their mind to follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she knows the rules so well. Kill Josh.
And it's also how you taught me. You taught me the rules, and you taught me the word, but I never felt condemned as you were teaching me.
I'm not going to guilt you into anything. This is supposed to be a free will journey. You cannot guilt people into heaven. Now, there's some people who talk about earth. Yes, there's going to be a new earth, but there will also be a new heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And it was said to the disciples when he said, I go away to a place that, to prepare you a place that where I am, ye may be also. There will be some there. He told them that you'll be given 12 thrones in his kingdom, meaning there. Some will be there, some will be here. And guess what? There will be interaction between there and here. The same way we saw Adam and Eve getting a visitor from time to time. There's so much we need to understand. And that's what makes this all so disgusting, because we have a whole lot we could be teaching and preaching, but we're not teaching and preaching any of it, because you're telling everybody that this liar sitting up here on this chair is the voice of the Creator himself. And he knows he's a liar. And these other men around him know that he's a liar. Which is why they can stand in front of him and lie to his face. And they can stand down here and hear him lie to their faces. I also wrote, for everybody to know, because people were scared and afraid, I also wrote to Bishop Cunningham.
Mm-hmm. And I mailed it.
And my wife mailed it. And you can see what I wrote, because I ain't got nothing to hide. I don't hide behind people. I'm right out here in the front. My wife is right out here in the front. Right out in the open, transparent. The only one that's hiding is the bishop and the council. You ain't hear nothing from them. And now they're getting ready to get the people to go to Miami. When the bird flu is out, you're still dealing with traces of the pandemic getting worse. And some already came back from California sick. We saw what happened in Charlotte, how members of the House of Prayer died. Over 122 confirmed cases. Confirmed. How at the time the leaders was ignoring the rules coming from the federal government. And people congregating and inflicting harm in society by putting people at risk. But especially to put them on the buses.
But people thought that they were doing a work for the Lord by showing up, by not being scared.
And yet people dropping dead from following behind these bishops. Went to Miami during that time. Almost everybody in Miami got sick.
And the general council got really sick down there.
Yes, one apostle couldn't even come back home.
I remember.
Y'all know Apostle Price.
Mm-hmm.
Apostle Cunningham sick twice. I think it was 3 times. Came very, very near. Close to leaving here.
Lady D was very sick too.
Same thing we heard about D.
Later. Mm-hmm.
Why do y'all think everybody's still wearing masks in there? But they want to protect themselves while putting everybody else at risk. When we do things knowingly, then that makes us look like fools. For 40 some years, I was a part of it, looking like a complete fool, ignoring everything. And we're the only organization that I'm aware of for the last 3 years wearing masks everywhere. Ain't nobody else wearing a mask. No one. Now people are beginning to put them back on again because there's another problem. And now that there's another problem, we have this push to get people to Miami. What do you think is going to happen in Miami for those who do decide for whatever reason to go to Miami and spend all your money and then give him more money to a man who's not doing nothing whatsoever for you? That's why I talked about Apostle Shepherd. That man was in pain. He didn't do nothing for him. I sent those out, and I even sent proposal, and look at the date, March the 11th, 2024. I sent a proposal to the General Assembly Secretary. Okay? This is what came back, March 19th. This is not a proposal for the General Assembly. Now,
then when would something like that come up? If it's not for the General Assembly, where is the appropriate time for it?
Well, that's the problem, right? Now, the members of the organization, that was kept from you. And they didn't even tell you that it was there. So now the bishop, the new bishop, Bishop Cunningham, kept this from you by having the proposal committee keep it from you. And he did nothing whatsoever to bring me back to the General Assembly. And in my letters, I'm going to read them. In my letters, I let it be known I will be there waiting to get in, because there's unfinished business in the General Assembly records, the minutes from last year. But I knew that he's going to have the council, have the people waive the reading of the minutes so that it will not be heard what happened last year. And this is the letter from Mickey Bailey. Now, Constitutional Revision Committee, General Assembly, May 2024. She signed it, Sister Mickey Bailey, Esquire, committee member. This is why I say, we'll come back to all of this.
What's the date on hers?
But this was May 2024. She didn't put a date that she sent it out, but it was sent with recommendations for the General Assembly 2024. And it's sneaky the way that this was done up, because it says the Constitutional Revision Committee for the General Assembly of 2024 submits the following proposal. But those are lies, because this was not a proposal. It certainly was not a proposal that was sent to the houses for the members to read and to discuss and then vote on to pass it to the General Assembly. They treated this the same way they treated that list of amendments, 46 changes to the Constitution. Now, your bigger problem is the man who was the General Assembly Secretary, head judge, senior minister at that time, who know full well better, is now the bishop. And instead of him doing things the right way, he follows suit behind the last bishop and does exactly the same thing he did, using the same lawyer that he used, which happened to be his daughter. And she should know better. I keep saying, there's consequences to this stuff. And even though it's just a young man on a video along with his wife, y'all thinking that everything is hunky-dory. Okay. The problem is, you're about to find out.
I have that comment if you want it.
Yes.
Whenever you want it.
And just to make sure, I was sending out my letters in envelopes like this, giving them to the members. The members are so intimidated and scared. Our pastor, Elder Forney, went knocking on their doors to take the letters from them. Now, I don't know whether he was given that order by the district chairman or the chairman. I'm sure probably the district chairman told him to do that, Elder Rodney.
He sure didn't do it on his own fruition, that's for sure.
Right? And so that sounds like something Elder Rodney would do. I don't know. But I'm sure that came from him. I could be wrong, but I believe it came from him.
But the people didn't have to give.
No,
that was their
property.
That's their property.
And that's why I put it on this. Such a time as this, number 2. I typed this up the day before the General Assembly for 2024. And I took a bundle of these and gave some to my wife so we can be there on the site to hand them out to people. I never in the history of the House of Prayer saw the halls empty on the day of the General Assembly. Never. It was like a ghost town. It was completely barren. We got there, we walking through, you can hear echoes of our footsteps through the hallway. And I said, wow, he's serious about this. Those guards on every corner. And of course, when they saw me, all of a sudden they start talking on their radios. I ignored it. We went through the hall, went down to the cafeteria, and it's so scarce and it's quiet. I say he must have done whatever was necessary to get the pastors to make sure every member was there early, on time, and upstairs, because he knew that I was going to be there. He knew that. And so anyway, we're there, but I wrote it in this. please pass around. And I typed in here, this cannot be taken from you. And the reason I typed it is because they're taking stuff from people.
And they tried to get me while you weren't paying attention because you were dealing with 15 different men.
Yeah, it was about, it got up to about 18,
Yeah.
but 15 at one time, out in the front of 601 M Street. And I'm sitting here looking at them, different comments being made by certain ones, which I really didn't care about. But I did everything I could to keep my composure. But these various guards, various pastors and councilmen coming out to try to talk me into leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Or come inside. And I'm telling them, y'all should be doing what I'm doing. Trying to get people to see through this nonsense when you have a leader that you know is a liar. Elder Woodley, oh, don't,
Yeah.
oh, don't, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Don't say that.
What are you talking about? What am I doing? He's a liar. Oh,
Don't say that.
Don't. We have... You have to choose to stand for right or bow down to wrong. Out of all of Israel, are you going to be a Daniel, a Shadrach, a Meshach, or an Abednego?
Mm-hmm.
Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, for those who know their Hebrew names. Are you going to be one of those four, or are you going to be amongst the vast numbers of Israel who bowed down?
Sounds like the broad way and the narrow way.
Yes, exactly. If you don't stand, then you will burn. This is truth. It's either right or it's wrong. We have an individual. What was that they wrote?
Do you want to read it? You want me to?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can.
This says, Brother and Sister Lewis, I thank God for your strength to come forward with this information. Although I believe there are many others who feel the same way, they just choose to stay quiet. I was part of the 2023 General Assembly. My first thought was this is a waste of time. They bypassed all the minutes, which didn't allow the body to know what was going on, and everything was staged as far as the nomination. They would nominate someone, and immediately Elder Jock Taylor would propose to close it on the one said name, and then immediately Elder Boatwright would second it. You could tell it was staged because when they got to the assistant secretary, Elder Taylor got up again to close on the one said name, and right after that, Elder Boatwright got up to second it. And Addie Bailey said, wait, let's see if there are any more nominations. Mind you, he didn't do that for the General Assembly secretary. He let that one flow. After a minute or so, he let them proceed. I remember exactly what happened when it came to you. You were the only one who stood out of all the others. All the rest of us, I believe, felt we had no say. Just listen. As far as the mask, I don't know if you want me to go into that part.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying it for years now. This was supposed to be God's kingdom on earth, yet we are the scariest believers I know. What is the use in all of this traveling to be around the man of God, but yet you don't have the faith of a speck? Forget a mustard seed. I love the house of prayer with all my heart, but we as members need a time of relief. I could say giving into something if you see results of where your money is going, other than 2 Rolls Royces, not one new sanctuary built or fixed, houses feeling like freezers or ovens, houses leaking, bathrooms messed all up, kitchens falling apart, but we steady collecting. like people have the wallets and pocketbooks to give. Young people breaking their necks to be on Daddy's Club just to perform. People struggling to make that club so that they won't feel as though they are not a part. God loves a cheerful giver, not a stressed out giver. Help us, Lord.
Mm. And this is an individual who was there. This is an individual who said that they witnessed for themselves and they could clearly, plainly, easily see it was staged. So, all that said, while I was out there in the front with that 15 or so men, and some came up, one, and others would leave, and I would approach them, put my hand on the chest. In doing this, I would de-escalate. Others, I put my hand on their shoulder. Put them dead in their eyes while I'm talking to them. To de-escalate. Trying to show them I'm not being a problem. I'm doing something that needs to be done. Now, the whole time, there is a problem because y'all coming out here to me.
Mm-hmm.
You all know me. You all know me. And now, all of a sudden, you're converging on me. Okay. Nothing happened. And when another boat ride came out,
Mm-hmm.
I had already been out there over an hour and a half, just about. Monroe,
Mm-hmm.
he was one of the first ones, but he quickly left.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a little agitated, said, "You," and okay, smiled. But just so that you know, and it's on video, you know for a fact that every single time I see you, what you did and how you lied and how you set me up. And just because I smile in your face, you need to understand, don't you ever do that again. It took every ounce of everything I had. You be putting on a show. You always put on a show. I don't put on those shows. I do everything I can to contain myself. You all need to be real. Not fake. You need to be real. You need to get yourselves together. You need to repent. Because if you ever die and you have not gotten yourselves right, there's a spot waiting for you, been prepared already. I've done everything I could for many, many years now. And an individual can take but so much. Only during the times when I was in a situation trying to get something done, I would see you cut up. I'm way beyond that. And I've been a peacemaker. And I hope to continue to be a peacemaker. But I've had to put myself in the Lord's hands so that in our Creator's hands, in my Father's, Heavenly Father's hands, so that He would lead me and keep me. All of you have a little bit of time left. This individual is telling whoever has ears to hear it that here's a person who's done nothing but try to help you all. Still trying to help you all. Even for some of you who act like Brian Gillespie, act like. You don't need to go there. You have no idea what you're messing with. You have no idea what you're playing with. And y'all so easily put on a show. As we wrap this up, while I was standing down there and you were up the sidewalk with my mother, What was going through your head?
So, what what I saw was them thinking that they were gonna intimidate you, make you scared or nervous, and just cause you just to walk away. What I also observed was all the people who were standing around. There were people on both sides watching and trying to listen, like meandering into their trunks, just kind of going through stuff. They were trying to listen and they were watching every word that me and your mom was saying. At one point, I was wanting to speak to her without the, people being in our mouth. And I said, well, let's go over here to the shade around the corner and I can tell you. When I went around the corner, that's when I said that there were about 15 men around you because the other 3 had come over there to follow us. We go around the corner and I'm standing there with my back to the road, and somebody, there were 2 or 3 men standing there, and they were like, "You can't go in there," and I dropped the papers I had in my hand. I turned around, and before I could catch it, I was like, I know I can't go in there. I wasn't trying to go in there. And he was like, "Let me help you with those papers." I was like, "No, I got it." Because I knew they were wanting those papers.
Yeah. They wanted to see what the letter was.
Yeah, and they were like, "You can't take that in there." And I wasn't trying to go inside. I knew I couldn't go inside the building. They'd already started.
We could. And what you didn't know is I had told them. Brian had told me that I can't go in there and pass those out. I can't have those letters.
Well, we'd already passed them out.
I said I can pass these letters out to anybody I feel like passing them out to. There's not a law anywhere that says I can't pass them out. And if I feel like going in here to pass them out, I will. There's a meeting going on that we cannot go inside of. Now, everybody out there knew that I know the law. Everybody knew I know the law. All the security knew that I'm on security. All the security knew that I have outside security. All the security know that I've done things outside in security. What they don't know is what I've done outside in security. But the point of the matter is that they knew that I knew the law. And they tried with her. I didn't know it. But when they approached her, I wasn't there.
But that's how they do. Even in our house here, anytime I got approached about something, they would make sure you weren't by me. All the instances I came back and told you that either the pastor or particularly that other elder that was bothering me, how they like to do things. They like to mess with people who they think they can intimidate or mentally or whatever they think they can overpower them. And other people have experienced the same thing, but they like to try to do that because that's what they're taught by the people who are over them, the same way that our pastor was intimidated by Elder Rodney. He would try to push off that same behavior to the members, the ones that he thought he could intimidate. But he would not do that with certain people because he wouldn't be bold enough to do that. But certain people he could overpower or think he could overpower, that's what he would do.
Right. And they've done this for the longest time, which is why people are so scared and terrified of them. And they are selective in who they approach that way. And anyway.
Sorry, that was a little tangent.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's just I'm trying to...
Recollect.
No, not recollect.
Calm.
Yeah. But this intimidation tactic is what they do all the time. But people who have allowed whatever for peace sake, those are the ones that they kind of, for whatever reason, they again try to use them as an example from time to time. But while I was talking to these, my wife was praying. My mother was up on the sidewalk as well. I can't remember what Elder Boatwright said when he came out. But the look in his eyes was empathy. And at that moment, I began to calm down. When I talked to him, he said, Brother Lewis, remember, I was going to have you work with me. Talking to me that manner is what brought me to a point where, you know what, I'm going to listen to you. Didn't come out there trying to flex muscles. He came out there because he wanted to talk to me, seeing that this situation has grown out of hand already. And I absolutely wasn't going nowhere. I was waiting for Bishop Cunningham to pull up. But in talking to him, and when he said those things, it began to hit me. And I began to tell him the same thing I told the others. You all know me. Y'all know me. And for me to sit here and watch security come out here, and not one, but upward of 15, that made an impact. And when Elder Boatwright came out, the way that he spoke, got me down. I was at that same point where I was in New York, where I told the Lord I was done, because the Lord knew what was in my mind that day. Y'all. So when he talked to me, and at that moment, same thing that happened in New York happened right there. Tears, adrenaline flowing. And now I'm so angry. But I told him, I said, you know what, just for you, I'm going to go ahead and leave. And that's when I began to shook his hand. Others came to shake my hand. It's just fake. I said a few words to Brian Gillespie. Said a few words, I think it was Elder Jennings, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, we left. Not too long after that,
The
Bishop Cunningham arrived, which we know is
waiting on us to leave.
I didn't hear anything, no phone calls. And at that time, I was expecting, because there was individuals that were present. So I was beginning to get upset, because now the individuals that's inside, I had shared with a number of people, many people. All you have to do is just oppose the waiving of the minutes. Have them read the minutes. That's all you have to do. And it's going to come up. My name's going to come up. That said, they would have to have me come so that I could go into the details of what I was not allowed to talk about the last year. That didn't happen. Anyway, I want to say this. It was not meant to happen.
Right.
It wasn't meant for anyone to stand up and to oppose this. Just like the disciples, people think that they were traitors to, at that hour when they came and took out of the Garden of Gethsemane, when our Savior was led into questioning. The disciples ran. Peter denied him. It wasn't because they betrayed him. It was because his Father did not let them. If they had went through that as well, then where would the gospel be?
In the grave.
Somebody needed to carry it on. It wasn't needed. It wasn't necessary. And it wasn't allowed for someone to stand there. And I hope that this lifts a burden off of people, because I know for a fact people have been weighted with burdens. This one burden. I could have raised my hand. It wasn't within His will. This was meant. This was meant. So here we are now, and we're about to go forward. One last thing. For all of you out here that are watching and preparing, I've been saying, stop wasting your money. Stop putting money on G-Class, preparing for Miami. Miami may very well be canceled. The tours down south may very well be canceled. Right now it has yet to be determined because there's something that has to take place before that is determined. So let everybody know, after you watch the video tonight, let everybody in the House of Prayer know that Miami just might be getting canceled. Everything else might be getting canceled because the bishop will be, his powers will be getting suspended as the bishop. And he may not be able to travel at all until he goes to trial. Now, I've said this for the councilman and for the General Assembly Secretary. I'm going to say it now loud and clear. You're going to be getting some papers served to you. Your papers will be coming via the chairman or district chairman. And there's some, just pay close attention. The jig is up. I can't say it any more plain than this. The jig is up. It's all over. It's done. And we're now at that point where something has to give. And you can take the opportunity. Take the opportunity to do what I've already told you in the last video. But it's already up. And you need to stop looking around and hoping that somebody else you can fall on. Because when the hammer hits the wheel, every single one of you as individuals will have to answer for what it is that you've done. It would be better for you to consider what you are going to be facing. I can't put it any more plainly. Members of the House of Prayer, stand still, sit back and watch. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, General Counsel and General Assembly Secretary, then you're going to make it, you're putting yourself in a worse predicament. I can't be any more plain and any more direct than what I'm being right now. So stand by. You can think that I'm just full of hot air if you want to. Stand by. Members, stop supporting Bishop Cunningham. Band members, stop traveling. Choirs, stop traveling. The rest of you traveling, they're only intimidating you. Your pastors are using you. The general council is using you. Your chairmen are using you. They're making all of you look foolish by following someone who you know to be a liar and all of these other men lying to you. Share and spread the word. Let other people see these videos. If you don't share but one, share this one. Because in a little while, the entire organization will know how serious this is. And people will be surprised at what I'm telling you. I've been telling you. This is not a show. This is not entertainment. These are not jokes. This is serious. So, we thank you for your time. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, sir.
Well, thank you for your time, and put the word out. That even if you don't believe it, you're not for it, you're against it, you love Addie, you whatever, no matter how much you support him, his time is up. The jig is up.